I'm in my tag era, everybody. I'm just feeling like tags are fun. Maybe it's because I've been off of BookTube for a while and I haven't done this. Maybe it's I'm not creative enough to make my own video ideas. Probably a little bit of column A, probably a little bit of column B. But today I decided at least what I can do is create my own tag before, just stealing other people's tags. So I'm creating a new tag called the Book Emotions tag, which is pretty simple. I just picked 7 basic emotions and thought, what book made me feel this emotion? And it was a fun exercise, so hopefully I'll tag some people at the end, but feel free to take this. Anyone out there watching, if you have a BookTube channel. So the first emotion I chose was probably the most fun emotion. What book made me feel angry? And there was 2 ways that I could go with anger. Either one, like a good book that highlighted like a historic wrong, or like there's a really bad villain that gets away with it, or like the hero's really mistreated. But I thought actually the more fun angle would be a book that I read that made me feel angry at the book. That I wanted it to be better, that I was frustrated that it wasn't better, or wasn't what I wanted, or just really like did not work and I wanted it to work. Also, this is going to upset some people, which, it's always interesting on the internet. The Lies of Locke Lamora by his name. What's his name? Scott Lynch. Scott Lynch. Now, listen, immediately I know a lot of people out there love this work. A lot of people I respect and whose tastes I respect love this work. This book, it's not that I just didn't like it. It is that it actively frustrated me. The characters are fine. Locke and his friend, I forget, Key. That's not it, but I don't know what his friend's name is. Okay, so here's the deal. I was excited for a fast-talking heist fantasy setting. That's what this was supposed to be. And also, a lot of people tell me it's based broadly on Venice, which is a very interesting concept of normally we have nations or kingdoms or empires in fantasy books, but this is a city-state that is based on the mercantile class and different guilds. And I was like, that could be very interesting. I love heist movies. Maybe this could be an Ocean's 11 or Italian Job, but in fantasy. Exciting. Great idea for a book. Quick talking banter, yeah, I normally like that. But a couple of key elements just did not work for me in this book. And not just didn't work for me, I thought were logically silly. Didn't work, completely took me out of it, and completely missed the landing. And I steadily, over the course of the book, as I started reading it to the end, got more and more and more frustrated. And I think it's because I could see that it could be a book I really, really loved, and it just wasn't. It was a complete miss for me. So Lies of Locke Lamora made me angry. I'm so sorry. I know there's a lot of Lynch fans out there, but just being honest with me, honestly, that book has maybe the angriest I have been on BookTube. I have a rant review. You can watch it. There's spoilers. I go deep into the particular things I'm talking about there. If you want more information, go there. Second emotion I picked is sad. And this is a hard, singular note emotion to connect to a book, because a lot of books make me feel sad in the moment, or they have heroes who are sad or circumstances that are sad. But oftentimes, especially if it is a good book or even a basic book, they will make you feel something else through that sadness, whether it is empathy or compassion or anger, as I just did before, or joy if people are able to overcome that suffering or at least grow from that, or something along those. It's rare that there's sort of a one note. And of course, there's no one note from a book. But I wanted to take this in a direction of a book that really kind of got to me and got me down. And not in a bad way, but in a way where something was highlighted that I just couldn't get over. And this is a non-fiction work, I kept coming back to this book by Naomi Klein called On Fire, The Burning Case for a Green New Deal. Now, if you don't know who Naomi Klein is, she writes a lot of different works in a lot of different spaces about capitalism, about She has a fun book called Doppelganger about how she looks like Sofia Coppola and that experience in the world. She's just an excellent writer. But primarily for the last 2 decades, she has written about climate change. And this book, On Fire, is a collection of essays from, I think the earliest one is around 2010 to the modern day, or at least when this was published. I think it's like 2022, 2023. So it's a decade and a half-ish of her writings. And as normal, she is witty, quick, insightful. It's a great book to read. I'm not recommending this to you. In fact, I am. You should read this book. In fact, I didn't buy this book at first. I got it from the library. I liked it so much. I was like, I'm going to come back to this. I want to buy it. So I own it. What makes this book really, really sad is that because you have a clear layout of her writings from each year or period, you see how much we knew about climate change and how much our culture decided to do nothing or to do very little or to ignore it. And I'm literally recording this right now when in Minnesota we have a air health advisory because there's smoke from Canadian wildfires that is directly tied to climate change and a heating planet that is causing me to be inside on a beautiful summer day for my health. And this is just 2025. It is going to get so much worse. So much of the political strife in our world comes from roots in a lot of things, but one of definitely the strong roots is climate change and migrants having to flee major climate change events. And reading this book, you really get a scope for how much we knew this was coming and chose to not meet it. It's still something I would highly recommend. I'd also recommend, actually, while I'm doing that, her other book. I mean, I would recommend everything on Naomi Klein, but read this and you feel sad. Maybe to get inspired, read This Changes Everything, which is a particular book where Naomi Klein gets at the capitalist roots of climate change, why we are here, and how we can get out of it. So this is a good follow-up if you read On Fire. After that downer, let's go to another positive emotion, which is happy or happiness. And this is probably a boring pick, but I have to go. It's Lord of the Rings. And specifically, I would pick The Fellowship of the Ring as a book that I just read all the time and just makes me happy. There's a phrase going around called cozy fantasy, and I actually haven't read many books in that, and I probably should. If you have strong recommendations for cozy fantasy, put it in the comments below. But for me, Fellowship of the Ring is cozy fancy. Yeah, I know it's not technically the genre or whatever that is, but the slow pace at the beginning of the reveal of the ring's history, your time in the Shire, the slow journey through the Shire, Farmer Maggot's farm, and then the old forest, meeting Tom Bombadil, the Whites, the Barrow Whites, and then the slow nature of this beginning is just a delight and a joy. There are often times where I'll just read chapters in The Fellowship of the Ring because they are so good. I love the language. I love how Tolkien describes every dell and slow rising hill and slopes and hedges and copse of trees, and just the way he describes it is all so magical. I love this book so much. I don't have to speak about Lord of the Rings too much. I mean, honorable mentions were definitely Anne of Green Gables books or L.M. Montgomery generally, The Blue Castle is very good. House in the Cerulean Sea is very good, but I couldn't not say Fellowship of the Ring. Next one is a fun one, the feeling of fear. Now, I'm not incredibly well read in the horror genre. I dipped my toe in a little bit for the first time a couple years ago and found that I liked that feeling. And a little bit for the first time I liked that. I liked I liked. It is my favorite King to date, and it is one of the few books that I read in a dark room and started to kind of look around at the shadows with some fear and trepidation, because it is just so tensely, so tensely a book that is filled with terror and fear. It's also got an incredible reflection on grief and our actual fear of death. Boy, Pet Sematary is good. If you haven't read it, strongly recommend it, and absolutely is the most fearful book I have ever read. The next one is a fun emotion that was one of the harder ones to figure out, and that is stunned. And some of you might say, that's not really an emotion, but I actually looked at some emotion wheels to kind of get ideas for this tag, and it's brought up quite a bit of that feeling of surprise, but also like a deep surprise that lingers. And I like stunned more than surprise because surprise is somewhat easy in writing. You know, there's expectations and genre conventions, and so you can surprise people by just things going the wrong way. Stunned is where that is pulled off in such a way that it sits with you and it makes you examine why you were expecting one thing and this other thing. Why do you find it so off kilter or so right when you thought the other thing was right? And it just like, I don't know, eats at you, but it just like gets at you. And it's a rare feeling in reading particularly and in fantasy generally, because it's really hard to pull off and not make people upset or angry. And a book that did that for me absolutely and continue to this day stuns me is Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. This is the third book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, and this book does something with all three of our main point of view characters from the whole trilogy that stunned me. Every single one of them. The ending I did not see coming, and yet all of them felt in some ways correct, or at least like true to themselves, to the story, to the situations that they found themselves in, and yet not satisfying, but satisfying. I mean, I think even as I'm talking about this, you're understanding how stunned I am of what Robin Hobb has pulled off here. It's one of the reasons why Live Ship Trader trilogy is my favorite of the Realm of the Elderlings and probably one of my favorite books of all time. It is a stunning work of fiction that is fantastic. I mean, truly wonderful. Unfortunately, because it is a third spoilers. So if you have read it, you can check that out and see me just rave about it for like, I think a half hour. Let's go back to being just a little mean and talk about the emotion of boredom, which is probably the worst possible review that I could give for a book, is that this made me bored. Not that I didn't like it or that this didn't just gel with me or I didn't like these characters. Like all of those are bad parts of books that are reasons why we don't like books. Those are bad parts of books that books. Books. I'm not interested. Is bored. So I'm going to apologize if anyone out there likes these books or read them at a part in their life that really worked for them. But the most boring book I have read since starting this channel, I DNF'd it and have no desire to go back, is The Elfstones of Shannara by Terry Brooks. By Terry Brooks. Wait, is that Terry Brooks? By Terry Brooks. Wait, is that Terry Brooks? Hit some fun notes. It was interesting. Some of the characters, they're all very archetypal, but it sort of felt warm and fun and cozy, and I just liked hanging out with this group, and so it was worthwhile. I wasn't super drawn to the second one, but I thought, sure, I'll try it. It's a trilogy, and they're all relatively short in fantasy terms. I'll give it a go. Oof. Just soul-crushingly, mind-shatteringly boring. I just did not want to get to the next paragraph, let alone the next chapter. I understand this is important for many people, especially maybe like if you're over 45, this might have been one of those books that you read in your early teens. It really works for you. I understand. I think probably some people think about that, about Aragon, which is one of my like dear series, the Inheritance trilogy by Paolini. But you know what? It's just the most boring book I've read. Final emotion, leave on a high. What book just made you feel gratitude? And specifically gratitude just that it exists, that you have this in the world, that you can read it, that it's a companion that you can have whenever you want, that is just sitting on your shelf. There's no other answer for me except for the Malazan Book of the Fallen, specifically the 10th one, The Crippled God. This is a treasure that I will hold close my entire life. The weight of expectation on this book after you've gone through 9 massive volumes is huge, and it follows through on all of those expectations. It is a joy to read. I cried, I laughed, I couldn't stop reading it. And at the end of the book, I felt exhausted, like I had just ran a marathon, but also with like the victorious feel of finishing a marathon. Steven Erikson is a tremendous writer that just touches to my heart consistently. I am just so thankful, filled with gratitude that this exists and that I have it. I mean, I'm going to have many volumes because I'm sure this volume is going to fall apart in my life. The Crippled God and the Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. So thankful for them. So that is the book emotions tag. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, feel free to use it and tag me in that video so that I can see what your answers are. Before I leave, I want to tag 3 channels that I love to watch and also specifically love to watch because these booktubers are so open with their emotions on how books make them feel, which I think is why they'd be great at this tag. First, Alan from the Library of Alexandria. If you watch him out there, you know watching him for his emotions is fantastic. If she's willing to do it, Murphy Napier, same thing. I just love to watch her react to things. One of my favorite videos is her reacting to 1-star reviews of her favorite books and just the complete swing of emotions that causes. So I think this would be a fun tag there. And Joshana C., who I met way back when I first started YouTube, is also just so fun to see react about what she reads and being open with that continuum of emotion. So those 3, if you want to take up this tag, I would love to watch it. And anyone else who wants to do it. Hope you enjoyed it. First in, last out.